I always want to do stuff that when we're doing stuff for music that fits it reminds you of who's this guy? I ain't never made a call to Diddy, really? I got Diddy's number, just hit him up. Yo, Diddy, what up? Never happened.
For nearly 3 decades, Sean Diddy Combs built an empire by ruling with fear, intimidation, control, silence. Those were his tools. Rappers checked in, they paid tribute, they bowed to his bad boy machine. But there was one man he never touched. One artist who spent almost 30 years throwing shots, calling him out by name, even hinting at his darkest secrets. And yet, Diddy never clapped back. Not once. That man, Eminem. And today, we're breaking down exactly why Diddy never had the guts to go at him. See, most people thought Eminem was just taking random jabs, that his bars about Puff were just for shock value. But what if I told you every shot had a purpose? That M wasn't just trolling, he was exposing the very reason Diddy couldn't make a move. And no, it wasn't about lyrical dominance or record-breaking album sales. It ran way deeper than that. We're talking real street backing, authentic respect, protection you can't buy, but fear sure can. From his Samoan ties to standing up against West Coast pressures, from refusing to check in with the Crips to surviving the era of Suge Knight, Eminem earned something most rappers only dream of, untouchable status. Add to that the unwavering loyalty of 50 Cent, and you start to see why Diddy knew better than to test him. Every diss track, every subliminal, every bold prediction about Diddy's downfall wasn't just lyrical warfare, it was a warning, a statement. I can't be moved. This question mark. This is the real story behind why Diddy never messed with Eminem. And trust me, it's going to change the way you look at both of them. But before we dive into why Diddy was allegedly terrified of M, we need to understand what made Marshall Mathers different from everyone else in the game. This wasn't about Grammy wins or Billboard charts. This was about something the industry never advertises: real protection. Here's the thing. Most rappers who go against a mogul like Diddy end up crushed. Their careers vanish. Their radio spins dry up. Features disappear overnight. But Eminem, he had something money and influence couldn't touch. Authentic respect from people who don't care about fame or clout. And that's where this story begins, with a single fact that changed everything. Eminem had deep connections to one of the most respected and feared families on the West Coast, the Samoan community. Specifically the legendary Booyah tribe. 5 brothers who didn't earn their reputation through record deals, but through loyalty, strength, and real street credibility. When Paul Rosenberg, Eminem's manager, called Monster Guna from the regime, the situation was serious. Word was Eminem was being extorted by certain Crips, pressured to check in. Now most celebrities, they'd either pay up or cave, but M, he played it different. According to Monster himself, the call wasn't about money, it was about respect. A few conversations later, the issue disappeared. The Crips backed off. Why? Because pushing Eminem meant going against his Samoan allies, and no one wanted that smoke. As a token of respect, the Booyah tribe asked for one thing: a feature. That led to the 2003 track 911 with Be Real and Booyah Tribe. But more importantly, it established something far bigger. Eminem was not to be touched. From that moment, the word spread across LA's underground and industry circles. Eminem wasn't another celebrity you could punk for a check. He had real muscle behind him, and the will to stand his ground. And trust me, Diddy heard about it. He understood what that meant. Because his whole empire, it was built on intimidation, and here was a rapper he couldn't intimidate. And that was just the beginning. What happened next would make Eminem's reputation bulletproof. Because when he came face to face with the most feared man in hip-hop history at the time, he didn't blink. Picture this. It's the early 2000s. Hip-hop is on fire. 50 Cent is shooting in Da Club, one of the most iconic music videos of all time. The vibe electric, cameras rolling, dancers moving, history in the making. And then, chaos. Suge Knight walks in, not alone. Witnesses say he showed up with an army, a squad of gang members deep, ready to crash the set, and remind everyone exactly who ran the streets. Now let's pause. This wasn't just some label exec making an appearance. This was Suge Knight, the guy whose name carried fear, a man whose reputation was built on intimidation, violence, and making people vanish from the game. If Suge rolled up uninvited, it wasn't for a handshake. It meant trouble. Big trouble. Tony Yayo, who was there that day, still remembers it vividly. Suge came in. He had some dudes with him, Mexican cats, 18th Street crew. Even the game confirmed years later on Vlad TV, this wasn't a friendly visit. Suge was flexing his power, expecting everyone to bow or get out. And you know what happened next? Security scattered. Execs panicked. The set froze. But not Eminem. According to Tony Yayo, this was the moment that changed everything. M stood up. He wasn't having it. He's like, oh, I don't give a fuck going on. That's when I knew Eminem was real. Outside real. Let that sink in. While everyone else was backing up from the boogeyman of hip-hop, Eminem stood his ground. No fear, no hesitation. He didn't care about Suge's reputation, his army, or the consequences. And you know what happened? Suge walked away. No fight, no shots. Why? Because escalating meant more than beefing with a rapper. It meant opening a door he didn't want to open, dealing with forces that weren't scared of him. Think about that. Eminem just stared down the most feared man in the industry and didn't flinch. That kind of moment? It spreads fast in this game. And guess who was watching? Diddy. He saw it. He understood the message. Eminem wasn't someone you could intimidate, silence, or squeeze with industry pressure. If Suge Knight couldn't break him, who could? But this was just the warm-up. Because what happened next didn't just make Eminem untouchable, it made him a powerhouse. When M signed 50 Cent to Shady Records in 2002, it wasn't just a contract. This was a seismic shift in hip-hop. The merging of two worlds, Eminem, the lyrical assassin with fearless authenticity, and 50 Cent, the street king with real muscle and a bulletproof reputation. See, 50 wasn't your average rapper trying to climb the charts. This was a man who survived 9 shots. Left for dead, came back stronger. His connections in New York ran deep. His reputation? Ruthless. When 50 Cent aligned with Eminem, the message to the industry was loud and clear. These two aren't just rappers, they're untouchable. And here's what really made moguls like Diddy nervous. Loyalty. This wasn't some shallow label partnership or a mentor deal you could buy out. This was a brotherhood, a code, a bond that money couldn't break. 50 Cent didn't just like Eminem as an artist, he respected him as a man. And that respect, it was mutual. These two weren't label mates, they were family. 50 once said, "It'd be hard for me to ever argue with M. I hold him in the same regard I hold my grandparents. He gave me opportunities when I had nothing. Without him, I couldn't have made it." That kind of loyalty, you can't fake it, and it never broke. Over the years, 50 proved it again and again. Anyone who tried to come for Eminem had to deal with both of them. And when it came to Diddy, 50 made it personal. He's been on a non-stop campaign against Puff for years. Instagram trolling, wild captions, documentary teases, turning the heat up every chance he gets. That wasn't just entertainment. That was a warning shot for anyone thinking about touching M. Because here's the reality. At the height of Eminem's power, when you're selling 23 million records, nobody argues with your vision. Everyone falls in line. And 50 knew it. He backed M with everything he had. And it worked. 50 dropped the biggest debut album in hip-hop history, all under M's wing. Now think about it from Diddy's perspective for a second. Messing with Eminem wasn't just a rap beef, it was a full-blown war. A war against two of the most fearless, connected, and stubbornly loyal forces in the game. Eminem and 50 weren't just artists. They were a united front, built on brotherhood and respect. No amount of money could divide them. No industry pressure could scare them. And that terrified Diddy. And once that alliance was locked in, Eminem started doing something no other rapper dared to do repeatedly. He came straight at Diddy, by name. Over and over. These weren't random jabs, they were surgical strikes, intentional, calculated. M knew exactly what he was doing. The pattern started early. Back in 1996 on a track called Fin Crazy, a hungry young M threw the first shot, hinting he could tear into bad boy territory. Most fans wrote it off as battle rap bravado, but looking back, that was the opening salvo in a war that would last nearly 3 decades. By 2000, when M had the whole world's attention, the shots became sharper. On the Marshall Mathers LP, he basically told Diddy to step aside, dismissing him as irrelevant. Then came I'm Back, and M went personal. He didn't just diss Puff, he joked about Jennifer Lopez, implying he could take her from him, and that Diddy knew it was true. And here's what set M apart: consistency. Other rappers might take one shot and then back down when the heat came. Not M. Album after album, year after year, he kept that same energy, always finding a way to drop Puff's name into a bar. And Diddy never once responded. In hip-hop, disrespect usually demands retaliation. When someone calls you out repeatedly, especially at M's level, you're supposed to clap back. But Diddy stayed silent for decades, and that silence spoke louder than any diss track ever could. Eminem wasn't just tossing out random jabs. He was running a masterclass in psychological warfare. Every shot, every subliminal, every bold name drop was calculated. He wasn't just dissing Diddy, he was challenging his authority in front of the entire culture. And the silence, that was the killer. Each time Puff stayed quiet, he looked weaker, smaller, more afraid. And M knew it. This wasn't about rhyme schemes, it was about power. Eminem was sending a message: you can control labels, you can control radio, but you can't control me. But then came 2018, and this chess game turned into a nuclear strike. Machine Gun Kelly made the fatal mistake of firing shots at M. And what happened next? Slim dropped Killshot, a lyrical hit that sent MGK's career into freefall. But hidden inside that track was a grenade aimed straight at Diddy. One line changed everything. The day you put out a hits, the day Diddy admits that he put the hit out that got Pac killed. Stop, read that again. Eminem just connected Diddy, the most powerful mogul in hip-hop, to the murder of Tupac Shakur, on a track heard by millions. And then, with the coldest smirk imaginable, M adds, "I'm just playing, Diddy. You know I love you." Too late, the damage was done. Think about the audacity of that moment. In an era where rappers get canceled for far less, Eminem casually dropped the most explosive allegation in hip-hop history, and did it like he was reading the weather report, calm, unbothered. Almost like he knew something the rest of us didn't. The internet went into meltdown. Reaction videos everywhere. Forums blowing up. Industry insiders whispering, wait, did M just accuse Diddy of orchestrating Pac's hit? And the bigger question, why wasn't Diddy responding? No diss track, no press statement, no legal action, nothing. Bad Boy Records went dead silent. That silence was louder than any clapback could have been, because at that point, it wasn't about strategy. It wasn't about playing the long game. It was about fear. Diddy knew, if Eminem had the guts to say that publicly, what else was he willing to reveal? What else was locked away in those rhymes? After Killshot, the entire industry felt the shift. Power players started watching the dynamic between these two men very carefully. And the conclusion? Eminem wasn't just another rapper, he was untouchable. He didn't play by the traditional hip-hop rules built on intimidation, control, and industry politics. For decades, hip-hop moguls like Diddy ruled the game with an iron grip. How? Control. Control of radio spins, control of playlists, control of industry relationships. Cross the wrong person and suddenly, your songs stop getting played, your features vanish, your endorsements disappear. Careers ended with a single phone call. That system worked, until Eminem came along. See, M wasn't built in that machine. He didn't depend on moguls for validation or gatekeepers for success. He rose through raw talent, a die-hard fan base, and something far rarer, total independence. Artistic, financial, strategic. When M took shots at Diddy, nothing happened. No blacklisting, no boycotts. Why? Because there was nothing Diddy could do. The weapons he used to control everyone else, Industry pressure, radio blockouts, business politics meant nothing to someone who never needed those tools to win. That's what made this so terrifying for Puff. For the first time in his career, he was looking at an opponent he couldn't silence, couldn't buy, and couldn't destroy. Eminem wasn't tied to the traditional power structure. He existed outside of it. And on top of that, he had something moguls fear more than anything: real street credibility backing him. Inside the industry, whispers started circulating. Diddy can't control him. He can't even make him flinch. Every day, Diddy stayed quiet. His image cracked a little more. The kingmaker, the shot caller, the guy who built his empire on intimidation, now reduced to silence by a rapper he couldn't touch. The power shift was undeniable. This wasn't just about music. It was about dominance. Eminem wasn't playing by the old rules. He was tearing them apart and showing the entire industry that the old playbook didn't apply anymore. And that sent a message to every other mogul watching. The game had changed. The game had officially changed, and some players were now untouchable. But the real moment that proved Eminem wasn't just throwing shots, but actually seeing the truth before the world did, came in November 2023. The game had changed, and now the world was about to see why Eminem was always 3 moves ahead. For nearly 3 decades, Slim Shady had been dropping warnings, lines people dismissed as punchlines, disses fans thought were just for sport. But in November 2023, the truth finally broke through the surface in the most explosive way possible. Cassie Ventura, Diddy's former partner, filed a lawsuit that shook the entire entertainment industry. The allegations were chilling: years of abuse, manipulation, and what she called freak-offs, drug-fueled encounters allegedly involving male escorts that Diddy reportedly filmed for leverage. The complaint painted a picture of the bad boy mogul that fans had never seen before. In the industry, it couldn't look away. And then came the kicker. Within 24 hours, Diddy settled the case for an alleged $20 million. No drawn-out trial, no battle in court, just silence. Bought with cash. But the damage was irreversible. That settlement didn't just make headlines. It made everyone question what else had been hidden all these years. And for hip-hop fans who'd been paying attention, something clicked. Suddenly, all those Eminem bars from years past didn't sound like random battle rap anymore. They sounded like prophecy, the cryptic references to Diddy's lifestyle, the jabs about the dark side of the bad boy empire, the warnings hidden in rhyme schemes fans barely noticed at the time. They weren't insults, they were messages. And now the dots connected. Here's what made it even crazier. Even after this lawsuit turned Diddy's image upside down, after Eminem was essentially vindicated, Diddy still didn't fire back. No angry diss, no press statement, no lawsuit for defamation, nothing. And that silence, it said more than words ever could. It told the industry one thing loud and clear: M was never bluffing, and if he talks again, the whole truth might come out. But the real chill came in July 2024. Eminem drops The Death of Slim Shady, an album fans thought was just another M reinvention, until they heard Fuel. On that track, M delivered bars so sharp they sliced through the noise. He spelled out rapper without a P while referencing trafficking charges. A wordplay so calculated, so specific, fans knew instantly who he was targeting. And here's the terrifying part. This album dropped 2 months before Diddy's arrest. 2 months before. While the FBI was quietly building a federal case behind closed doors, Eminem was out here, on record, practically spelling out the charges. That wasn't coincidence. That wasn't random shade. That was a warning shot from someone who knew exactly what was coming. Then came September 16th, 2024. A day hip-hop will never forget. Federal agents raided Diddy's homes in Los Angeles and Miami. The charges: racketeering, transportation for illegal activities, mugshots, headlines, chaos. The king of bad boy was in cuffs, and the culture finally understood what it had been watching for 28 years. Eminem wasn't just beefing with Diddy. He wasn't looking for clout. He wasn't chasing headlines. He was exposing him, piece by piece, bar by bar, year after year. And now every diss track, every subtle jab, every cryptic lyric feels different. Because when the smoke cleared, one truth stood tall. Eminem played the long game, and he won.